And good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of New York Giants football talk. Week one preseason out of the way. Uh, I'm Kenny Kay, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, Mr. Paul Rosen. How are we doing this evening, Paul?
Good, very good. Thank you, Kenny. Good evening, everybody. So, week one of preseason has come and gone, and we're here to discuss the Giants-Lions game, among other topics, and looking forward to a great show as usual.
As always, Paul, pleasure to be here with you, and I want to congratulate and celebrate. We have a 1 year anniversary today. It was notified me on Facebook about four
Woohoo!
at 4 p.m. that 1 year ago today, August 12th, we debuted New York Giants football talk, and here we are a year later, Paul, still doing
We
it.
made
And
it.
I want to thank Kurt and Jen Valenti, Jenny Hoops. Jenny Hoops started out with us as helping us out behind the scenes until we got things rolling, and she was a huge help to get the show successful, and of course all of Kurt's help throughout the weeks leading up to our 1 year anniversary, and happy about that. And I'm happy to announce that we are going to be doing starting week one. We're going to start uh, preseason show starting at 11:30 p.m. A.m. I should say p.m. Oh, I'm on nighttime still at work. 11:30 a.m. of game days. We're going to come on and do a half-hour pregame show, talking about the upcoming Giants game. So please feel free to look forward to that. Uh, my cousin Gary's watching on stream. I see Gary, going to get you on for the. We got to set it up when we want to get you on. I know you're a Commanders fan. Uh, and there's Ryan Woodham saying, Scoop saying, may not love the Giants, but I love my Giant fans. Happy 1 year, you all, and here's to a great season in the NFC East. Thanks, Scoops.
Thank
Good
you.
luck to
Thank
you
you.
and you're down in Mississippi. Hope things are going well down there. That being said, Paul, I'm ready to get the ball rolling. We'll get some people, give them some time to
hmm
tune in. So we made our announcements. Is there anything you'd like to add before we get to our recap of our preseason week one?
No, well, congratulations to you as well. 1 year anniversary. Woo! The honeymoon period is over, and we're on to bigger and better things. And hopefully, this season will also be bigger and better for our New York Football Giants.
Yep. And Gary saying, "What's up, guys? What's up, Gary? Gary,
Hey, Gary.
I know it's a Giants show. We're NFC East though. We got Ryan's an Eagle fan. You're the Commanders fan. Thoughts on Jaden Daniels, Gary, in the chat? Did you like what you saw of him or seen of him so far, or too early to tell? But that being said, Paul, why don't we get into a little recap of the Giants game? So I'll pass it off to you. I was working that
Okay.
night. I had it on my phone next to me, so bits and pieces I did not see. So I'm going to pass it to you, and then I'll throw my 1.5 cents in. I won't say 2 cents. So that's
Absolutely.
that's
Good.
stealing Kurt's show, which is probably going to be on after us tonight.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Kenny. So the Giants opened the season Thursday night, rainy, stormy Thursday night at MetLife Stadium against the Lions. They had two joint practices earlier in the week, quite rambunctious, fight-filled both days. And when they played on Thursday night, uh, mostly second, third stringers, rookies, free agents, backups played. Uh, Drew Lock started for the Giants at quarterback, and quite honestly, he was mostly ineffective. 4 of 10, one interception, and unfortunately, he got hurt. Turns out he got an oblique injury and a hip injury, and it looks like it's going to be sort of a week to week process with him. Of course, fan favorite and Giant favorite from last year, Mr. Cutlets, Tommy DeVito came in and immediately directed two scoring drives by the Giants. Looked pretty good. According to Coach Dable, he's gotten a much better handle on the concept, the offense this year. Looks a little more comfortable. Um, and turns out they wound up scoring 14 points in the first half. and that was enough to give them a 14-3 win. A couple of standout players, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but Eric Gray, our rookie running back last year, came in and had a great game, including one dazzling 48-yard touchdown run. He got one of the Detroit players, shook him out of his shoes with a fake, and scored the other touchdown on a short 1-yard run. The defense played well. Second stringers, third stringers in on defense had 4 sacks. Detroit is we know Dan Campbell goes for it on 4th down a lot, yet they were 0 for 4 on 4th downs in on Thursday night. Coach Dable has really emphasized toughness and physical play and just being tough, and you saw that a lot with the Giant defense, and even on offense, and we'll talk a little bit more about the way they philosophically played on Thursday night. So overall, it's a preseason game, but it's always good to have that first W, and Giants for the most part look pretty good regarding the overall game on last Thursday.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. Like I said, I was at work, so I was listening, watching, doing both. Uh, uh, and just saw a lot of good things, listened to a lot of good things. We're going to get into some of the positions that we thought did well in a moment. Uh, Eric Gray, like you said, amazing. Did nice to see that. And I'm just going to praise the defense as a whole. I think we're going to have, and I'm going bold, and it's not fandom. It's what I'm seeing. The Brian Burns edition, and Robbie Okereke. This defense is going to be top 10, chance to be a top 5 defense this year. Maybe
Yeah,
even top 3. That's how
I don't.
bold I'm going on this defense. And defense is what wins games. I'm not going to say wins championships. So watch out for our defense.
I like that prediction.
Good friend Jody Moncrief over there at Denver Bronco Roundup saying
Hey,
hello.
Jody.
What's up, Jody? And Gary saying, well, unfortunately, living in Florida, didn't see the Commanders game live, but he was 2 of 3 in a rushing touchdown, so I'm going to say he did okay. Interesting. Okay. Yep, I'll have to go back and watch a little more, Gary. I'm down here in Maryland, so I got no excuse. I can go back and watch for you. But yeah, check out Jody and the guys, Denver Bronco Roundup, Tuesday nights, Friday nights, talking all things Broncos. They're going to be doing post games on Sundays as well. You could check them on YouTube, Facebook, and Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Great show, great guys. They're family to us, and we love them. So go and support them. Broncos, if you don't have to be a Bronco fan, just go out there and hang out with them. They do a great job. That being said, Paul, I think we're ready to do our first segment of the night, and I'm going to pass it to you because we just had the Olympics end. Very successful for the USA, I'll say that. And we'll get into that on Wednesday with more of the Olympics. But got a fun little segment, I think, for everybody in regards, affiliated with the Olympics.
Yeah, so we typically pick the stars or performers of the game, and we're going to do this first preseason game by picking in line with the Olympics, our gold medal winner, our silver medal winner, and our bronze medal winner. And we did it a little differently where Kenny is going to give us his individual gold, silver, and bronze, and I'm going to do a team gold, silver, and bronze. So Kenny, I'll turn it over back to you. Why don't you give us our 3 individual Giant winners for the game?
Sure. And Jody has a question. I'm going to pin that because it's a Giants question. I'll pin that for when we're done with this segment. Jody, hang on. I will get that question. It's a good one, and I'll get to that in a couple minutes for you. My gold medal individual is going to be Eric Gray. We just talked about him. You talked about him in your recap. 4 rushes, 52 yards. He had a long of 46 where he said he juked the guy out of his shoes. So he only had 6 yards on 3 carries after that, but he did have 2 touchdowns. So preseason, you didn't have too many people stand out. He's my standout gold medalist. And yeah, great to see somebody maybe step up to be the backup running back to Singletary. And we drafted him last year with some hopes, and he was a kickoff returner, and he just fell in a numbers game last year. So I'm happy to see if he can move up the ladder to our backup role here and take on that role and spell Singletary for 10 to 15 rushes a game, plays a game, I should say. So I'll give Eric Gray my gold medal. You want my silver and bronze?
Yeah. Go
All
ahead.
right, silver, I'm going defensive side of the ball. Last year's surprise rookie, 6th round pick out of Old Dominion, and that was Trey Hawkins. I'm hoping, it's preseason, so I can't get super excited yet, but I'm hoping this guy can be the guy who started last year, who they saw in preseason last year. And, he still has the secondary coach, Jerome Henderson, there, but he's got a new defensive coordinator. So he has to prove it. And what did he do? He had 3 tackles, 3 assists. They threw at him 3 times, and they only completed once, the Detroit Lions. So he had a nice, solid game on defense, tackling, assisting, and deflecting, defending passes, I should say. So in limited time, he's my silver medalist. I'm going to stick on the defensive side of the ball. Again, you didn't see a lot of starters play much, but I'm going to go with a guy we picked up from Buffalo last year, and I think he got hurt and fell in the numbers game last year. Boogie Basham. Bronze medal just for the name, right? Boogie Basham. But no, he got 2 tackles, 4 assists. He had a sack. Like I said, we picked him up from Buffalo with some with the thought that he was going to be a depth guy, maybe have a shot of starting on the opposite side of Thibodeaux. He brings nice depth behind Thibodeaux, behind Burns. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Boogie Basham can do. Boogie gets my bronze medal.
Nice.
Boogie down, not breakdancing. Boogie gets it for his sacking. Good friend Mark saying hello. Mark was with us last week. Mark, how you doing?
Just want to add one more thing. Pro Football Focus always grades every player on every team and every game, and they gave Trey Hawkins III a 90.0 grade. So right on with that selection for Trey Hawkins. All right, I'll do my team. When I say team, you'll see what I mean for my awards, and I'll start with the bronze. Last year we had great linebacking. Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden were unbelievable last year. But these 3 guys on Thursday had phenomenal games. Deontay Johnson, who was a free agent last year, got injured. He was unbelievable. He had 4 tackles, 2 solo, 2 tackles for losses, 1 sack. Also had 2 quarterback pressures. He had a rating of 75. Darian Beavers, those of you who might remember, we drafted him out of Cincinnati, very productive player out of Cincinnati a couple of years ago, got injured, has come back, looked very good on Thursday night. He also had a high Pro Football Focus rating, 86. And a rookie that we drafted this year, Darius Mesur, who was also very, very good and had a very high rating of 82. So those 3 guys can maybe give us very good backup, or maybe even push McFadden as a starting linebacker this year. So those are my bronze winners. My silver, we've talked about this ad nauseum, the offensive line. Well, you know what? The offensive line played a phenomenal game. We only used 2nd and 3rd stringers on Thursday night, and they were amazing. As a matter of fact, again, going to Pro Football Focus, 7 of the 8 top Giant offensive players in Pro Football Focus grades were offensive linemen on the Giants on Thursday night, which leads me to my gold medal. Kenny mentioned it. Not only am I adding Eric Gray to my gold medal stand, I'm also adding the other running backs. Remember the name? Dante Turbo Miller and our rookie 5th round pick, Tyrone Tracy Jr. All 3 combined for 155 yards and a 5.7 yard per average rush. Of course, they scored the 2 touchdowns by Eric Gray. They had openings, they were fast, they caught passes out of the backfield, and overall, you know, we lost Saquon, and I'm not going to mention him too many times again. And we brought in Devin Singletary, who's going to be, in my opinion, a very good back. But you know what? If these 3 guys can contribute in some way, shape, or form, that gives a very good, solid backfield for the Giants, and I think will more than make up for the loss of Saquon. So my goal goes to the backfield of the Giants on Thursday night, and those are my 3 winners.
Love it, love it. And offensive line, that's the big one for me. And you hit it on the, backups are in there and they're playing good. It's such a great sight to see offensive linemen doing good. And I say backups, but these are guys that if somebody was to go down, you got to count on. So I was seeing Ezeudu play as well as he did.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely something to look forward to.
Yeah, and if I could just say one more quick thing, and let's already start giving him credit. Carmen Bracillo, the offensive line coach that they hired from the Raiders, I think he's certainly making his mark at this point, and if this can continue, maybe we can turn it around and have a very cohesive offensive line, and let's stay healthy with that. But if we can, that's the key to this team, at least on offense.
Let's get a couple of comments and then a couple questions in, Paul. Mark saying Gray looked good with the second stringers. Let's see what he does against first string. Yep, good point.
Mm-hmm.
Jody, I got a couple of Jody's questions. He's Evan Neal, first one. Jody, Evan Neal didn't play. He's back now, so that we're going to get into his injury in a second. But he didn't play. He's off the PUP list now. He's asking if I'm interested in Perine, not with Tyrone Tracy. Asked me last year, I would have taken Samaje Perine in a second.
Right.
But Jody's question that I want to get to you, Paul. So he wants to know, should the Giants cut Locke, being Tommy DeVito? Are we going to keep 3 quarterbacks, do you think? Could we maybe see Drew Lock get cut if he struggles throughout preseason and he's hurt, like we said now? So he wants to know, should the Giants maybe cut Drew Lock?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good segue into the question that we were going to go right back into, Jody. So thank you.
Yeah, why don't we do that now? We'll do that question now. So we'll jump ahead of, we had it further down our line, but let's do that question. Let's do that
now. No, I don't think they're going to cut Drew Lock. But that being said, Kenny and I had spoken off the air. I think the Giants must keep Tommy DeVito on the roster. He's got to be on the 53-man roster, and I'll tell you why. You look around the whole NFL, not just the Giants, you see so many teams going through 1, 2, 3. Cleveland last year, I think, went through 6 quarterbacks. Every team's got to have at least 2 or 3 quarterbacks that's ready and able to play. A guy like DeVito, as we talked earlier, he's a little more comfortable in the offense this year. I think the Giants have also a little more confidence in him. He's good with the other players, and having him as a backup, whether it's second string or third string. Drew Lock, I think he's going to be, once he gets healthy, he'll jump right back into it. I think the Giants are looking at him as a second string, but having the ability to fall back on Tommy if in fact they need him. In my opinion, if they were to cut or waive Tommy DeVito, he would be swallowed up in a second. I don't think he'd be on the waiver wire too long. And especially, as we said, the way the injuries pile up with quarterbacks, I think he's proven he can play in the NFL, whether it's with the Giants or another team. So I think you keep all 3, including, of course, Daniel Jones, on the 53-man roster, and you see how it works out.
And you hit it. I think we need to keep 3. I think all teams need to keep 3. Jody, Kurt's Broncos, Gary's Commanders. Every team in the NFL should carry 3 quarterbacks. I work in a hospital. There's still something out in this world called COVID. You don't know when it's going to come, when it can get on somebody can have it, a team, a player can have it. And what if it's the quarterback? You're going to go in with one quarterback for that game? No, you need 3 quarterbacks in today's football. And I think Drew Lock, if he's not on the IR, the injured list, he'll be probably the number 2 guy going into the season. But Tommy DeVito does have a chance to be the backup going forward. And with Drew Lock, maybe later on down the road, if the Giants were to not have a successful first half of the season, maybe you look to dump him at the trade deadline or something like that. And but let's hope that doesn't happen. I think the Giants keep all 3 personally myself, and I think it's right now. It's only one preseason game. If he struggles he's hurt now, so you can't evaluate him. But if DeVito plays well in preseason, you may have to elevate him to the backup role.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll see. But good question, Jody. Thank you.
Yeah.
So want to move on, Paul? I got a couple of stories for you also regarding this week, what's been going on with training camp.
Okay. Speaking of quarterbacks, you want me to give you some?
Yeah.
Okay. So given the fact that Locke did get injured, right now, Coach Stable is saying our emergency third string quarterback is going to be Tyree Jackson, who actually is the tight end and actually had a couple of good plays on Thursday night's game. He was a quarterback at the University of Buffalo. Came out as an undrafted free agent and signed with the Bills. So Dable and Shane both saw him up there and brought him down, and they converted him. I think he was converted to a tight end a couple of years ago, but he obviously could emergency quarterback if need be. But looked around the free agent list, came up with a few names I wanted to throw at Kenny and see what he thought about some of these names. So let me give you the first name, Kenny. Brian Hoyer is a free agent, been around a number of teams over the years. What do you think of Brian Hoyer?
Strike one.
Okay.
I got some comments we'll get to in a minute. I just want to let the audience know I see them. I'm going to get to them in question as well.
Okay. Second, Nathan Peterson, who was actually up in Buffalo for a little bit with when Shane and Dable were there.
Strike two.
Okay.
Just a simple way of doing it.
All right, no problem. All right. AJ McCarron, big star at Bama, played with the Bengals for a little bit. I think he was in the the XFL or something. Anyway, what do you think of AJ McCarron?
Clipboard? Nah, I'll have somebody else hold the clipboard.
All right. My fourth one, Blaine Gabbert, who's been around for a number of years. I think he was with the Jaguars, among other teams.
No, I'm going to pass on Blaine Gabbert, too. I'm going to tell you who I want as my third guy. Well, Jody's asking. Let me ask you who this one from Jody.
Well, let me go through the fifth guy. And then,
okay,
last one. The last one is someone who I thought that I was hoping the Giants would sign back before they had signed Drew Lock, but Ryan Tannehill.
That's who Jody wanted to know. Why not call Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah, knows Shane Bowen, certainly from their days in Tennessee. Bringing him in as a possible backup. I guess it all depends on Drew Lock and his status. But I mean, listen, I like Tannehill, not as my starter, but certainly to bring in a guy like that as a dependable backup. What do you think of him?
I like it. If Drew Lock's injury is more serious than we think, if he's going to be out for a long period of time, yes, I do it. But if you think he's going to be back and DeVito's still doing well, it's not a 1 week, 1 week that he did well. If he struggles next week, I'm calling Tannehill if Drew Lock's going to be out a while. Daniel Jones is not the you got to go in realizing, hey, Daniel Jones is injury prone too. So I need a reliable guy. You know, I want DeVito for a couple games, or do I want DeVito for double digit games? I'd rather have Ryan Tannehill for double digit games. Let me get to a couple comments. Mark saying nope, 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 nope on the previous guys. Yes on Ryan Tannehill.
Okay.
Our good friend Jimmy, our good friend and fellow Giants fan Jimmy Eisenman saying, "What's up, gentlemen?
Hey, Jimmy.
How about that first preseason game? He told us not to sleep on Eric Gray. Great call there. Let's hope it continues, Jimmy. Love it." Jimmy saying, "Cut Lock, grab Tannehill." And then our great friend Trevor Salzman over there,
hey Trevor,
one of the 4 horsemen at the Denver Bronco Roundup. Jody's in the chat as well. Hey guys, great to see you both. Best Giants show around. Flattery. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Trevor.
And then he says, if Daniel Jones stays healthy, I think you guys will be talking about playoff football again very soon. I knew
from your mouth to God's ears, that's for sure.
I knew there was something I loved about Trevor. I'm not kidding, Trevor. You're a great guy. I love you. You guys are awesome, great friends and family of ours. So we appreciate everything you do for us, and we're always there for you guys. He's also saying the Giants save very little money cutting Locke. I don't see them cutting him right now. Maybe down the line they look at backup quarterbacks again. And Ryan Tannehill would be ideal for me if I'm Dable or Shane. So a lot of people are on the Ryan Tannehill train there. So
we're all on the same page with that.
Everybody keep interacting. We love it.
Okay. So how about some of those rookies or free agents we're looking at, Kenny?
Yeah. So I got the rookies where I have it. I had it written down here somewhere. Yep. So our rookie class, I'm calling, is it a valedictorian? Neighbors is our valedictorian, right? So what's his classmates look like? So we'll start with our valedictorian, Malik Neighbors. I mean, what I saw wasn't, okay, he didn't, what I'm seeing in training camp is what we're seeing in training camp, what I saw in the Detroit Lions game. The guy gets open. Drew Lock didn't hit him, but the guy was open. I'm ecstatic to see what he brings. It's only preseason, but right now I think we got something in Malik Neighbors. So he's definitely living up to valedictorian for me, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope this recent injury yesterday isn't serious. He's back out there in a couple of days, and perhaps we'll even see him on Saturday afternoon against the Texans. But I mean, what can you say? Every day he's come up with a spectacular catch after catch. So he's the real deal. People are already saying he's the best receiver, including Marvin Harrison Jr. coming out of college this year. And I think there's not a Giant fan that isn't ecstatic that this kid is doing what he's doing so far.
Absolutely. Jimmy Eisenman saying our line looked really good, even though it was the second string, but very solid performance. And he's saying Nubin looked solid. And I was just about to ask you about Tyler Nubin. He had that really hard hit, knocked the guy right out of his shoes.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting a lot of that. Xavier McKinney, Landon Collins type. We've seemed to have hit home runs on safety. Dane Melton. Melton is even looking good out there. So we seem to always hit a home run in the safety room. So thoughts on Tyler Nubin?
Yeah, short and sweet. You have him, Dane Belton, who I love, always around the ball. Nubin's around the ball. Jason Pinnock, I love him too. You have those 3 guys. You can rotate them, use them in a lot of different ways in terms of the way Shane Bowen's defense is. Obviously, his defense isn't relying on blitzing and stuff, so you've got to have those guys back in the secondary. I think Nubin is going to fit right in, and he's going to be outstanding.
Couldn't agree more with you and Jimmy. And Jimmy's been a great friend and brings a wealth of knowledge to Giants. So Jimmy, you got to let me know, let Paul and I know your availability. We got to get you on one of our shows because always love talking Giants with you. And I know you may not be available each week, so let me know when you're available. We'll get together on off the air, and we'll figure out when we can invite you on the show. Love to have you on. And Mark was saying, I told you the Big Ten boys can hit, and Tyler Nubin definitely can. I'm definitely excited to see what he brings to the table. Let's move down the line. Also in this class, Tyrone Tracy.
He looked outstanding. He, for someone who just became a running back last year, hit the hole a couple of times, had a couple of outstanding runs, and I love it. I keep saying, having him coming out of the backfield as a weapon, not just to catch short passes, but to have him matched up against a linebacker. Oh my God! I mean, with his speed and his ability as an outside receiver, initially, I think it's going to be phenomenal. I think they're going to be able to isolate him in certain situations and utilize that as an advantage for the Giants' offense this year.
Absolutely. And Jimmy is saying Collins couldn't cover anyone with the blanket. Nubin can cover. And he's available. He's free on Mondays. So we're going to set it up, Jim.
All right.
Paul and I would love to have you on. Like I said, you bring a wealth of knowledge and be a welcome guest to New York Giants football talk for sure. Got a couple more rookies for you, Paul. Theo Johnson. I mean, we didn't see much of him, but Theo Johnson, got on the field. What are you expecting out of him?
Yeah, I again, it's going to be we're ecstatic. I mean, the guy has the size, the speed, all the intangibles to be a better player in the NFL than even in college. I think they'll be able to utilize him better than what Penn State did, and I think it's going to be a work in progress, so to speak. But with Waller retiring, I think they're going to count on him. It may be initially, it may take a few games, but I think once we get into the meat of the season, I think this kid is going to develop, and I'm looking really forward to seeing what he can do and bring to the Giant offense.
I think he will be one of those guys that gets better as the season progresses. I think we're going to see more of him gaining momentum towards the later half of the season. So Daniel Bellinger, time to step up. You did it your rookie year. I want to see it this year, Daniel. So let's hope Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson can be a nice tight end room for sure. Jimmy was saying about Tracy, he was very impressive, especially his vision. Reminds me of Terrell Davis, one cut and go. That's a nice comparison there. And those Bronco fans listening out there, what do you think of that? Jody, Trevor, that's great comparison there. So.
That was a good point by Jimmy. Let me just say this. One of the comments that Brian Daboll had was the running backs were one cut and gone. And I think he sort of mentioned about how there was nobody tiptoeing or whatever the phrase was that he used, not to take a side swipe at Saquon, but I think that may have been what he implied. So yeah, it's good to see the running backs doing that so far.
Comment from Trevor about Joe Schoen. Joe Schoen was in the Miami Dolphins organization as a scout and later on the director of player personnel when Tannehill played for them. There's connection between the two, and he's surprised the Giants didn't target Tannehill sooner.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
We're gonna see. Is right. Couple more I got for you, Paul. This guy I'm really excited about. He seemed to have stepped up in the practices versus the Lions, and I don't know. Like I said, I was only listening and watching parts of the game, so I don't know how he did in the game. But I know the Lions the joint practices he did well, and that's Andrew Phillips, our nickel corner that we drafted. Yeah. I'm excited about him, and he seems to have, stepped up nicely. Let's just say.
Yeah, listen, this kid, you talk about tough from the Big Ten. This kid is tough from the SEC, Kentucky. He is going to be a hitter. He's not the biggest. He may not be the fastest, but he's already earned starting role time already with the Giant defense. I think this kid is going to be someone we're going to look to maybe a year or two and say, man, Giants lucked out by drafting this kid. I think he's going to be outstanding. Looking forward to see him, how aggressive he's going to be. But as I said earlier, Daboll's looking for tough, physical, and those are two words to describe Drew Phillips.
Here's Kurt saying hello. Kurt, we're
Hey,
celebrating
Kurt.
1 year anniversary. We thanked you and Jen for
Thank
everything
you.
you guys did for us early on. Jen helping us get the show on the ball on the road on the get it going, and you with all your help behind the scenes each week and also being a big part of it. So he's just saying, "What's up, boys?" And thank you, Kurt, again for
Thank you,
everything.
Kurt. Jen.
1 year anniversary today, everybody who just turned it in. So, and we'll do a couple more. Then I want to make an announcement real quick, Paul. But I got the one more of our drafted rookies, and then I got a couple of undrafted guys for you. So Darius Muasau, our
Yeah.
6th round linebacker pick from UCLA. You praised him in your awards, the Olympic medals. So definitely curious to see what you got to say about him.
Yeah, he was physical. Again, we keep using that word, but they had him in the middle, and not only was he physical, they had him at one point with the green dot where he was calling plays. So here he is, a 6th round pick, and the Giants had enough confidence in him as a rookie, a 6th round pick, to have the green dot calling the plays in for the Giant defense. Not big, but fast, instinctive, and if he's not going to play on defense, I think they have an outstanding special team player. And at worst, the Giants, with the linebackers that they've either drafted or have as free agents, they're going to have a lot of good, strong depth with them, especially this kid.
Our good friend Graham Titka saying hello out there in Canada. What's up, Graham? Always
Hey,
great.
Graham.
Always great to see you. Check out Graham, Colorado Sports Connection. Graham, you got a special guest coming up. If you want to put that in the comments, for anybody out there listening, please do that, and we'll get that plugged on here for you. Jimmy, I love Jimmy's comparisons. Well, first comment from Jimmy, I missed this one. Barkley tiptoed so much last year, it drove him crazy. But then he said about Darius Muasau, I love his comparisons. He looked very good. Reminds me of Pepper Johnson.
Okay.
I like that.
I read a comparison of him to Rich Milano, the linebacker from the is it Rich Milano or Mike Milano from the Bills? They were comparing him. I think I read about him, but either way, hey, I'll take either Milano or Pepper Johnson. If they turn out to be he turns out to be as good as either one of them.
And Graham was saying Ryan Edwards of WKOA yesterday, sports Denver radio, I believe KOA radio. That's Denver Bronco radio, if I'm not mistaken, Graham. But check them out on YouTube. Colorado Sports Connection. They do an awesome job over there. And he's saying thank you. No, you're welcome. Thank you for always be supporting us here. I know you're a Bronco fan, so you don't have to come hang out with Giants fans, but you do, and we really appreciate it. Yep, and we'll get that going. And so I got a couple. Let's do the rookie undrafted guys as one. We'll do them all. So Turbo Miller, I got for you. I got Chapman and I got Rogers. And I'm forgetting their first names off the top of my head. I just wrote their last names. So.
Dante, Isaiah, and Casey Rogers. Yeah, listen, it's one thing to have guys that you draft and the scouts see these guys, but when you hit on undrafted rookies and they make an impact, these three guys on Thursday night, I almost said Sunday, these three guys on Thursday night really, in my opinion, were outstanding. Casey Rogers played with Kayvon up in Oregon. Turbo has a weird history out of South Carolina. He was unbelievable. He's one of my gold medal team winners and running back. And Chapman played an active game on the defensive line, and I think he could compete for a spot on the defensive line. So you have these undrafted players that hopefully make an impact, and if they earn spots, well, you know what? Then that makes the Giants team that much more depth wise and competitive.
Mark on Turbo, he's saying Turbo looked good, fast, and some power. That's good. Yeah, it definitely looks like a guy that can make this team. Uh, Graham has a question. Paul, I'll let you answer this one. I know the answer to this one too, but I'm going to let you answer it. He wants to know how Drew Lock looked before he got hurt.
In all honesty, Graham, not good at all. He was 4 out of 10, threw an interception, um, kind of measured himself in terms of always rolling to the right. Phil Simms and Carl Banks are announcers. It's almost like he does that all the time. So teams know that. And the other thing was twice he had Malik Neighbors, our unbelievable first round pick from LSU, wide receiver, open, and he couldn't connect with them. He didn't even throw it to him. So, in all honesty, he did not look very good first time. But you know what? It was his first time running the offense, so we're going to give him a pass and hope he gets better and gets healthy.
Yeah, one game preseason. You have your highs and your lows. So I look for the really highs to come down a little bit. I look for the really lows to come up a little bit. Drew Lock, unfortunately, he's hurt, so I can't see him come up a little bit this week. So we'll see when he comes back. But the injury definitely has me a little concerned that he may fall down the charts if DeVito continues to do good. And he's saying, yeah, he never really, Graham's saying about Drew Lock, yeah, he never really progressed in Denver before he was involved in the Russell Wilson trade. Jimmy's saying, we need that defensive lineman next to Dexy. And ends should be good, but we need one more interior lineman to cause a little trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, and it could be. There's a couple of guys I'm looking at this preseason: Riley, Davidson, Nacho Roche. So there's a couple of guys. I think it's an open competition for sure, and one that we should be as Giant fans, and doing the shows, we should look a little deeper as the preseason continues. We should look at that competition a little closer. And Jimmy's saying Locke looked confused at times. And Mark's saying shaky. Those are his comments on that. So thanks, guys, for answering Graham's question as well.
Thanks, guys.
But yeah, that's the rookies I had for you, Paul.
Wonderful.
Valedictorian and the classmates, how we're doing so far. A couple little news stories for you. Malik Neighbors got injured. Why don't you? We should have touched on this a little earlier, but we didn't. But let's touch on Evan Neal's injury and see what's going on there. If you want to inform everybody who doesn't know about the injury.
Yeah, I mean, he came off the PUP list, as you mentioned. There's nothing. I mean, there's really nothing to say at this point. He's not being handed back his right tackle position.
Malik. Oh, we'll do Evan Neal. Malik Neighbors. I was talking about who got injured.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned his injury. We said hopefully it's not too serious. Yeah. He's day to day. They said he might even get in practice late in the week, and he might play actually next Saturday. Dable said he wants him out there to get the reps and get the actual opportunity to continue to work with Daniel Jones. So hopefully it isn't serious. I mean, I'll be honest. I've sprained my ankle numerous times in my life playing sports, and sometimes it's almost worse than breaking your ankle. So hopefully it's no big deal, and he gets out there in another few days.
Yeah, that's an Evan Neal, like you said, Paul. I'm excited about Evan Neal coming back only because now we're going to know how good the offensive line played against the Lions. Carmen Priscillo, he seems to know what to do. He seems to be an offensive line coach that knows what he's doing. If Evan Neal can't do it with him, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. So this is it now. Now we're going to know. Now we're going to know if Evan Neal was the seventh pick of the draft that we picked last year or
2 years ago.
2 years ago, I mean, or if he's a complete bust. And you know what? Unfortunately, there are busts in this league, and and we just hope he's not one of them. So Jimmy's saying Nacho's a good rotation guy, not a 3-down guy. That's where I said we got could get some depth in there. Maybe some surprise guys fill in next to Dex, and I think the other three will make up for it. Let me get a question from Graham. I'll let you answer first, and then I'll throw my 1.5 cents in. Is Kayvon Thibodeau the real deal, Paul?
I believe he is. I think he's going to have an outstanding year. Uh, eh, you know, there's been a lot of criticism. I think he's lived up to his number 5 selection. I think with Burns on the other side, I think he's going to really be competitive this year. I think he's going to play hard. I think he's going to have an outstanding year. In my opinion, he is the real deal.
Yep, and I agree. And Graham, there's games I've seen him play his rookie year and his sophomore year. Wow, making play after play, just missing the quarterback, but pressures. And now you got Brian Burns on the other side, who's arguably a top 3, top 5 edge rusher in the league. It's just going to make Kayvon Thibodeau that much better. And I'm expecting huge numbers from Thibodeau this year. And he's saying nice. And I got another one from Graham. Do you guys want DeVito to be the long-term answer? I'll answer first on this one, Paul. No, because I want Daniel Jones to be our long-term answer so we don't have to worry about getting a quarterback next year, Graham. DeVito, I'd like to be our long-term backup. I really would. It's a nice success story out of New Jersey. Grew up high schools that I've played against, and Kurt and Jen on their All In on High School sports show. They have the coaches on and players. So it's a nice local story that I hope continues, but I think I would rather see him as the backup, not the long-term answer, Graham. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, agree. I mean, short and sweet. I agree with that.
Yeah, he's saying great signing for I think he's talking about Thibodeau. Just getting Thibodeau in there. Great. Great signing, Brian Burns. Excuse me, Brian Burns. Jimmy saying Thibodeau will cause havoc this year. Maybe not have the sacks numbers, but the pressures are going to be often and plenty. And Jimmy, you nailed it. People don't see the pressures. I listened to New York radio. Thibodeau's a bust. Thibodeau's a bust. Did you see the 7 pressures that he had? That he forced incomplete passes or an interception? Okay, it's not all about sacks. It's not all about the stats that the sacks. It's about pressures. It's about, tackles, getting to, causing havoc like Jimmy used, the word he used, causing havoc this year. That's what he's going to do. And Graham was just saying Burns. Yep, I caught that later on. But yeah, that's some news, Paul. We got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Going to do the top 100. We've been doing this every week.
That's great. So some of you may not know the Giants this year are celebrating their 100th anniversary in the NFL, one of the oldest organizations and franchises in NFL history. So they've come out with a number of items to celebrate the 100th anniversary, one of which is the top 100 players of New York Giants franchise history. They've had over 5,000 players, so to narrow down the top 100 is almost impossible, but about 13 experts, quote unquote, got together and tried to narrow down the top 100. So right now we're halfway through. We're down to number 50 to 41, and every week they put out another 10. So we've been talking, like Kenny said, we've been talking about some of the selections over the past few weeks. And I wanted to go over some of the names with Kenny, and in number 50, and it combines both what we would call modern Giant players with some of the older players with the Giant history that they've had and the championships that they've won. So at number 50 is a gentleman, Ray Flannery. He was an end, an all-pro back in the 30s. He won championships with the Giants, and actually he was the first player to ever have his uniform, number 1, retired as an NFL player. So as crazy as that sounds, he was the first player out of any player in NFL history. Number 49, it may have been before Kenny's time. Spider Lockhart was a safety. Some of you guys may have heard the name, who was on some of bad Giant teams in the 60s and early 70s, but a great defensive back. He was 6'3", 6'4", like 175 pounds. So he had long arms and he looked like a spider, but he was an all-pro and just a great player. In fact, in the 86 season when we won the first Super Bowl, they had the patch on the Giant uniform to signify that Spider had unfortunately passed away that year. Number 48, I'm going to ask Kenny, guy by the name of Jeremy Shockey. I have his jersey on. Tell me a little bit about your guy from the U, Jeremy Shockey.
Absolute beast. I mean, a Miami Hurricane fan. When we picked him up years, still, high school, early college years, Jeremy Shockey started. I was like, he's going to be the next Mark Bavaro, and he lived up to his name. Some injuries here and there, but caught up to him. But man, he could have been maybe in the 20s if he had a few more years with the Giants. That's how good he was, just catching the ball, a threat receiving, and a threat when he caught the ball yards after the catch. I mean, just an absolute stud of a tight end that I wore his jersey last week. So, it's funny that we're still wearing his jersey many years later. So.
Yep, here we are.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Just
Jimmy thought he would have been higher. Jimmy's saying higher, and I'll catch up on the other comments in a minute. Carson's saying hello, but I'll get the other ones in a minute.
Hey, Carson. 47. We mentioned his name quickly, I think, Mark, last week. Sean Landeta. Dave Jennings, who was a punter, actually right before Sean Landeta. And Landeta turned out to be voted all-decade 80s and all-decade 90s punter. And he was unbelievable. He was great directional punter and punted on the Giant two early Super Bowl teams in 86 and 90. 46. Tell me what you think of Plaxico Burress.
What I think about Plaxico Burress. Graham was saying, wow, haven't heard that name in ages, Jeremy Shockey. Well, Plaxico Burress, Mr. Paul Rosen and his lovely wife put this on every week. This is the Super Bowl, along with the banner in the background. The Super Bowl, if you could see the autograph on there, inscribed saying Super Bowl winning touchdown, or game-winning touchdown, I should say. But Plaxico Burress came over from the Steelers, and, what can I say? What a performance in that Super Bowl, getting wide open on that touchdown. I mean, we'll always remember that. And now I got even more things to remember now, thanks to you and your wife. But Plaxico Burress, stud on the Steelers. Stud came over played with the Giants. I think he's right where he should be ranked in the 40s, give or take a couple numbers. But I think it's an accurate ranking for him, and definitely excited, that he's on there, and excited about putting this up on the wall when I get my frames in.
Wonderful. I'm going to throw something out. I have always been a big Victor Cruz fan. Victor was voted number 59. I just compared Victor and his career and Plaxico's career. Plaxico, 4 years with the Giants, 244 receptions, 3,680 yards, 33 touchdowns, and of course, one Super Bowl championship. Victor, 5 years with the Giants, 303 receptions, 4,549 yards, 25 touchdowns, and of course, one Super Bowl championship. You put a gun to my head. I almost would say I could have make a case of Victor being a little higher with Plaxico and close to Plaxico, if not taking his place. But that's me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get these couple comments in because they're good. It's about this. Plax was a beast from Jimmy Eisman, stupid off the field.
Yeah.
Graham, and this is why I think Burress is higher than Cruz. Graham saying definitely an iconic Super Bowl and play. I think that's why Burress is higher than Cruz. If Burress doesn't make that play in the Super Bowl, Cruz is probably higher
And I will add one other thing. In that we all remember that Freeze Bowl game, the championship game in Green Bay before they got to the Super Bowl that year. Minus 23 degrees with the wind chill factor. Eli and Plaxico played pitch and catch as if it was 80 degrees out. He was just unbelievable that playoff game, and he was just an amazing receiver that afternoon and evening.
Jimmy's saying, don't forget all the sauces. Rapid fire, if you can answer this. Rapid fire, quick hitter. Whatever happened, this is from Graham, whatever happened to Cruz? Was he old when he retired? He doesn't remember that being the case.
He had a horrific knee injury. He wound up tearing his PCL and his ACL. Tried to come back, came back a year. He was out 1 year, came back the next year, and he just wasn't the same explosive player, unfortunately, for the Giants. They cut him. He went to Chicago. I guess he couldn't make it with the Bears, and then ultimately retired. But it's just unfortunate because, I mean, just an unbelievable, amazing receiver when he was healthy with the Giants. 45, Rodney Hampton. I loved Rodney Hampton, one of the best running backs in Giant history. 5 straight 1,000-yard rushes, 1,000-yard seasons. Aside from that, I've met him a few times. Just an unbelievably nice person, down to earth. You would never know. He was one of the 45th best player in Giant history. Just a really, really nice guy. Any thoughts about Rodney?
Just that I think another one, you talk about injuries. If he didn't get injured, what could have been? I think he really would have been. He would have been the top rusher in Giants history. But where would he have been on that all-time list?
I agree.
And Mark saying he loves him, he should have been higher. He doesn't get hurt. Where could have it been?
Yeah,
where could have it gone?
I agree. 44, Jack Stroud was a player in the 50s, all-pro, offensive lineman, was on 6 division championships with the Giants, just a good pro, and was on the 56 championship team. 43, one of my favorite players of all time, Bob Tucker, tight end in the 70s with a lot of bad Giant teams, but actually 1 year led the league in receptions for a tight end. I would compare him to a George Whittle type of receiver, all-round player, good blocker, was a free agent out of Pennsylvania, and just actually holds the Giant record from still receiving yards by a tight end with the Bavaro and Shockey, but was just a very, very good receiver. 42, Pete Gogolak, one of the first soccer-style kickers. He led the way, played with the Bills, and the Giants signed him from Buffalo, which sort of led the way to the merger between the AFL and the NFL, and he still holds the Giant record, excuse me, for most points scored. And last was Bart Oates, number 41. You might remember, center for the first 2 Super Bowl championships.
Solid offensive line, from Jumbo Elliott, who's on the list last week. You had William Roberts, Billy Ard, Carl Nelson, the list of the offensive linemen. You talk about the Cowboys line and everybody else's offensive line. Well, the Giants had an offensive line, 86 and 90, that worth mentioning. And you see a lot of names coming up on that offensive line on this list in the top 50 going down. You're going to see more.
I agree. So that's the list now. We'll get another list next week, and we're getting to the big guys, the big boys in Giant history, and it'll be exciting seeing the countdown.
And Graham's curious about Tiki Barber's ranking, so we'll get that out there for sure.
Yep.
But I think we're on it, Paul. We're on 1 hour, so I think it's time for final thoughts. I tell you, the time flies by when you got great audience interaction from our audience and great co-hosts as well. So time flies, when you're having fun, and this is definitely a lot of fun each week. So I thank everybody in the audience. So I'm going to go first on my final thoughts.
Go ahead.
And yeah, looking forward to week 2. Looking forward, like I said, seeing more of the rookie action. Looking forward to seeing more of Tommy DeVito. Daniel Jones is getting some action this week, so definitely looking forward to that. Gonna hold my breath while he's in there. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not trying to be funny, but I really am gonna be a little nervous when he's in there. But he has to get play. He has to get the time. He has to get the time. So I'm curious to see that. I'm curious to see the guys that did well build off that performance they had in week 1. The guys who didn't make a name in week 1, now it's time to make a name for yourself in week 2. I want to see a lot of competitions. That means you're having a good preseason. You're having a good training camp if you have competitions. So I want to see that. I want to see the depth come in week 2. So curious of that. And last but not least, I want to say one more time that we are going to be debuting a pregame show each regular season Sunday morning on games that are on Sunday or Monday night. Not Monday night. Games that are Sunday. We're going to do a pregame show, 11:30 Eastern time, and it's going to be a half-hour show, just going over our thoughts of the game. So hang out with us. We will bring on a fan and an audience member each week with us to do it. We'll see. Somebody wants to come on with us. Why not? We'll get John. We always like to engage in our audience. So it doesn't just mean the chat. Mark's been with us a couple times. We're going to invite Jimmy on, et cetera, et cetera. So look forward to doing that with Paul. And season's right around the corner, Paul. So here's my final thoughts. And I'm going to pass it to you for the final thoughts of the week.
Thanks, Kenny. Great show as usual. Thank you, Kenny. Always a pleasure co-hosting our Giant show with you. Thank you to the audience. Great questions, great observations. Don't want to mention anyone. I don't want to leave anyone's names out, but always a pleasure interacting with everyone. Looking forward to the preseason game number 2. I have to tell you, the Texans, let's face it, they're a good team. This will be a good test. I imagine they're going to play a lot of their starters and regular players. So this will be a good test for the Giants. Clearly, I want to see how Daniel Jones does. Hopefully, some of the players that we would like to see, maybe Malik Nabers will get in. They'll, I'm sure, start their first string offense and defense. Let them play maybe a half, and it's going to be it's going to be some pressure on Daniel, but you know what? Hey, it's tough, and we want to see how he's going to do. Hopefully, he does well and builds toward the opening the regular season. And like you said, I want to see how some of the other rookies respond and some of the other free agents who had good games on Thursday night. And let's see if we can build on that.
Absolutely. Paul, let's do this real quick. Jody's been with us for the whole hour. Let me, on a different note, answer this one in 30 seconds or less to wrap the show up. On a different note, Paul, how big a loss is Notre Dame losing their starting left tackle? He's a big Notre Dame fan.
Yeah, that was a big loss. Listen, they lost Alt and Fisher as their starting tackles from last year. They thought they had a replacement. Listen, next man up, as we always say, not just in football but in every sport. So next man up. I believe in Marcus. They'll try and do as best they can. Obviously, they got to protect Riley Leonard's blind side, but I think Notre Dame will be fine.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jody. Thank you, audience. And go Giants. See everyone next week.